Welcome to Kaleidoscope, where we are positive, daring, different. And so, we are going off the beaten track today, diving deep into the thicket of the forest to reach Riverston. Situated in Sri Lanka's central highlands, Riverston is a lush playground complete with rolling hills, dramatic escarpments, and with more waterfalls than you can count. If you're looking for a quiet escape to nature, this is it. Later on in the show, we have Michael David and Dinesh Gadiarachi tackling childhood malnourishment, Shiran Fernando on Sri Lanka's high fish imports, and Christopher Pereira and Tharini Handagama on their love for old castaways. To our wonderful partners on the show, Srilanka Live CDB, The Daily Morning, thank you for being amazing. Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Subscribe and follow if you like our show.
You can now start a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit and experience a range of special benefits from CDB.
This is CDB Snapshot, where we take a quick look at the week that was. Sri Lanka passes its anti-corruption bill in Parliament with amendments and without a vote. Sri Lanka's tea exports declined by 10% in the first half of 2023, although earnings jumped 28% from last year. The taxman is happy as revenue for the first half of the year was 700 million rupees. Sri Lanka initiates steps to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the world's largest free trade zone. Sri Lanka's first artificial beach, built within the port city, is now open. In order to cut waste, France will pay its citizens to repair their clothes. And also in France, it becomes the first country in the world to mandate supermarkets to give away unsold food to the needy. A group of engineers creates a real-life transformer named Antimon, who transforms into a 12-foot robot. And Austria holds a first-of-its-kind human flying race.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
This is Srilanka Live News Capsule. Welcome. What's happening with the IMF? As at end June, Sri Lanka has 33 of the trackable program commitments and failed 8. This is double of the failed commitments from May. We are mostly failing in two areas: the passage of legislation and information dissemination. The failed commitments include obtaining cabinet approval for restructuring SOEs, enacting new anti-corruption legislation, publishing annual reports of the 52 major SOEs for 2022, and preparing a plan to eliminate import restrictions. There's also a lack of information at play, as at end June, the information missing to make an assessment rose to 14% from May's 6%. Sri Lanka's ocean is 10 times larger than its landmass, but the country consumes an inordinate amount of imported canned fish. In 2020, Sri Lanka imported over 70,000 metric tons of fish, valued at nearly $190 million. Import expenditure on fish and fish preparations amounted to nearly $124 million in 2021. On average, Sri Lanka imports canned fish worth $78 million annually. So why is Sri Lanka importing so much fish? CEO and Managing Director of Chess Private Limited and President of the Canned Fish Manufacturers Association of Sri Lanka, Shiran Fernando, popped into the studio to answer some of the questions I had. We are a country that's surrounded by the ocean and plenty of marine life. Why is our import bill of fishing products so high?
Due to a 35-year war, which we have all forgotten now, 50% of our island, that is the east coast, is not fished. So what happens is, now if you take the season, it's the west coast season. So we are getting fish from the west coast. But there is nothing happening in the east coast because there are no boats. One whole generation has gone off fishing. We have now, with the government, got together and we are starting a project in the east coast to develop fishing and actually give them a higher price for fish. So moment that comes, we have fish year round. Now actually you have only fish for 6 months of the year. So which means the fish prices go up during that period. So basically we are telling the government, protect our natural resources and help people to develop that kind of thing in Sri Lanka.
Is it that local demand is more than the supply at the moment, and is there any way you can change that system?
See, the Sri Lankan consumption of canned fish is about 250,000 cans per day. Now, all of me and my association, we manufacture over 300,000 cans per day, so that is not the problem. But what we are saying is to the government also, help local manufacturers. I mean, encourage them. Help the local industry by, basically increasing duties and encouraging them. Give them help, give them know-how. That way we will save our foreign exchange. I mean, we import almost 16 million US dollars worth of canned fish for a year. That's about 64 billion rupees.
What is the potential for export if we get our local recipe right?
In the next 2 years, we can definitely export canned fish. If you take Thailand, Thailand's seas are smaller than Sri Lanka's seas, but they are the largest export of canned tuna in the world. We can get to that position because we are manufacturing local. We are not spending money, US dollars, on importing. Canned fish is not an expensive thing. And also, it's not expensive to send. You can send container load because the shelf life is 2 to 3 years. And it's 100% natural with no preservatives. Canned fish, actually, you just put it into a container and you have 2 to 3 years shelf life. It's not a difficult product to export.
And now a look at our markets this week, our gold, oil and stock market. The Colombo Stock Exchange retains its optimism. The market continued upward with a 4% gain in the oil share price index. Concerns about the Chinese economy and US interest rates kept WTI oil prices between 75 and 76 US dollars per barrel. A slightly stronger dollar has led to gold holding steady at just below 2,000 US dollars per ounce. The adorable golden retriever celebrates its 155th birthday. Hundreds of golden retrievers return to the birthplace of their breed in Scotland, where the first ever golden retriever was bred by Scottish aristocrat Sir Dudley Marjoribanks in Glenafric. 250 of the world's most amazing architectural structures have been shortlisted at the World Architecture Festival Awards. One of these will be named World Building of the Year. Although Sri Lanka has led South Asia in terms of the Human Development Indices in the past, the HDI growth rate has seen a dip. While the top HDI rankers are Switzerland, Norway and Iceland, all in the 0.9 point levels, Sri Lanka is in 73rd place with 0.782 points. Those most impacted with the economic crisis were children, with most of them battling malnutrition, wastage, acute malnutrition and being underweight, which naturally impacts physical and mental development. With us today are the founders of the Affinity Foundation, Michael David and Dinesh Gadiarachige, childhood friends who joined forces to ensure that most left out of the nutritious equation at least get a basic meal. You're doing a great job with trying to tackle malnutrition, which our children are now plagued with. What is the state of childhood malnutrition in the country today?
In a rural context, we see that it's getting worse, Savithri, because the urban population, I think, has adjusted to the cost of living. But in terms of the rural population, we see it increasing because the inflation is on the rise and the cost of goods are rising as well. So I think the parents are finding it a little difficult to tackle in terms of providing the proper nutrition for children. The food is available, but I think the proper nutrition is what they are not getting.
So what are the major issues actually preventing children from having proper nutrition?
There are problems with giving out the nutritional food. Like now, for an example, eggs, fish or meat or high protein type food. So that is where the biggest problem lies. They can eat something, but that's not enough.
So what is the correlation between school attendance and having a good meal?
The main problem we were trying to face and take head on was the child being taken out of school and put into the workforce. to provide some sort of economic relief for the parents. So by taking out that cost of providing the meal to the student, it's an incentive for them to come back to school. And we have seen that happening with the attendance numbers going up, even in their participation in school. They have that energy level is sustained to actually absorb the lessons.
What does the Affinity Foundation do? How did it come about?
After the Aragalya, we realized that things are not going to get better for the next 5 to 10 years. So without waiting for the government or blaming everyone, we wanted to see what we can do. So Dinesh and I registered the foundation, hoping to expand and help as much as we can.
How do you manage tackling the provision of meals in these impoverished areas?
First, we get in touch with the zonal director, and then we get the information of the school who's lacking the food program from the government. With the zonal director's direction, we meet the principal and the parents and the teachers. We have a menu for the 5 days. We get hold of a parent who is close to the school, to the children, so who will cook with affection. And also on a daily basis, we get updates of the food, of the entire, they take photographs and they send it to us.
Your foundation works with 10 schools around the country. What are some of the sobering observations you've made during that time that you've worked?
One would be the passion of the children to actually come to school. They love to participate, they love to be in school, but you see them coming in with old tattered clothes, slippers. It's heartbreaking in a sense. So that's why we have sort of concentrate on a more, rather than just a meal, we go on a 3-pronged approach, which is growth, education and attendance. So the food provides the nourishment, then we monitor their education, whether they're actually absorbing the lessons, and if they are actively participating in school rather than going to work and coming to school for 3 days or 2 days. So we try and enforce that on the children and the principal to uplift the lives. Hopefully we'll see a positive outcome.
What would you like to see happen in the country during the next 10 years?
Ideally, a big change in the system and bring in proper processes.
Obviously, policy changes in terms of a lot of things. I would talk only education here. That is where you can give the best, because if you have a proper education system, you see the rest of the world, how they are operating, how they work, but it doesn't start from after maturing. It starts from the day one, from school, because your next home other than your house is school.
Fantastic effort indeed, and it's just more power to you to continue doing what you do. Christopher Pereira and Tharini Handagama, co-founders of Tidal, put their love of craft into their passion of finding old things and making them new. By producing rare and one-of-a-kind pieces, by upcycling and repurposing old items, they celebrate local craft but add a contemporary aesthetic to transform these pieces into beautiful pieces of unique art.
So initially I started tinkering on my own. When I found old items I liked, I would take it around to small garages and welding shops to create pieces. But it was only after we met the amazing people we work with who bring our crazy ideas to life that we really started getting into their finer details and skill.
Once we launched our very first piece, the horn lamp, we found there's a considerable audience that is interested in our unique rare products. Most of our initial ones sold out within a matter of hours. The more pieces we put out, the more inquiries we got, and we now have a good following both online and off that is waiting to get their hands on our pieces. We are working with individual artisans that we have scouted and external lighting shops. Within our selection of artisans, we have a healthy balance of old and young ones that are learning to master the craft. Our future plans revolve around scouring the island for more unique crafts and to bring recognition to hidden talents through our products.
Have a great weekend. We will see you next week.